The Wave 2 expansion for X-Wing introduced large ships to the game with two of the most iconic privately owned vessels in the Star Wars galaxy, Han Solo's Millennium Falcon and Boba Fett's Slave One. I'll be talking about the Slave One in the near future, but for now we're going to be looking at the Millennium Falcon expansion pack. Now, technically, when you buy this expansion, the ship you're getting is a Corellian YT-1300 light freighter. The Falcon is just one version of the ship that you can choose to add to your squadron. In fact, it's possible to have Han Solo piloting a YT-1300 that's not the Millennium Falcon because of the way a new upgrade card type called Title, which is introduced in this wave, works. But setting aside ship naming conventions for the moment, let's talk about how large ships change the game. First and foremost, they're on bases that are twice the size of the standard starfighters, which means they cover more board and are harder to maneuver around obstacles like asteroids and other ships. There are two changes to the core rules of the game when applied to large ships. First, they can begin the game with part of their base outside of range 1 of the board edge, so long as one corner of the base is touching the edge. This is only important when beginning the game with the ship placed diagonally. Second, when hit with an ion weapon, large ships require 2 ion tokens before being affected. They still clear all ion tokens as normal during the end phase of the following round. Now, let's talk about the huge change to the game that the YT-1300 brings. This ship has a turret primary weapon. What this means is that whenever it attacks with its primary weapon, it can ignore its firing arc and choose a target within range in a 360-degree arc. The ship still has a normal front firing arc printed on its base, and when using secondary weapons, it still uses this arc to attack from. The primary turret is indicated on the base by a circular red arrow. So that's a huge change to the game, and with the exception of the Corellian Corvette huge ship, we won't see more ships with primary turrets until Wave 5 delivers the YT-2400 and VT-49 Decimator, both of which will have turret primaries. Let's look at the maneuver dial for the YT-1300, which is very impressive. This is an incredibly maneuverable ship, which, with all available normal movement options at speeds of 1 and 2, everything but hard turns at speed 3, including the first of 2 K-turns, and speed 4 straight and K-turn options. Both K-turns are red, which is pretty typical in this game, and you can see that the YT-1300 has a few green options as well, and no red maneuvers outside of its K-turns. Looking at the base stats for the YT-1300, we see something that's fairly uncommon in X-Wing. The 3 unique pilots share the same stats, while the single non-unique pilot has a different stat line. The unique pilots all get 3 attack, 1 agility, 8 hull, and 5 shields, which makes the YT-1300 a pretty beefy ship, requiring 13 hits to take down. Of course, the agility value of 1 means it's likely to take more hits than most other ships in the game. The non-unique pilot has an attack value of 2, the same agility of 1, and 6 hull and 4 shields. On the attack or action bar, the YT-1300 has the basic Rebel setup, focus and target lock. This is the same action bar on all 4 pilots included. The upgrade bar is different for the unique and non-unique pilots also. The 3 unique pilots included can all load 2 crew upgrades, 1 missile, and an elite talent, while the non-unique pilot card only has the 2 crew slots. Of course, the best pilot for this particular ship is the legendary smuggler, scoundrel, and possible nerf herder Han Solo. He costs 46 points and has a pilot skill of 9, which as of Wave 4 is still the highest printed pilot skill in the game. When Han attacks, he can re-roll all of his dice after the initial roll. This basically gives Han a free target lock action, although unlike target lock, you can't choose to re-roll only some of your dice. It's also worth noting that if Han uses his ability, he won't be able to use target lock, because dice can only be re-rolled a maximum of 1 time per attack. Although I believe it is possible to use target lock first, re-rolling some dice, and then use Han's ability to re-roll all dice that weren't already re-rolled by target lock. This is a very thematic ability for Han Solo, since you're basically playing the odds and gambling with your attack rolls. Okay, moving along to the next unique pilot, we've got Lando Calrissian. who of course owned the Millennium Falcon before losing it in a card game to Han Solo. Lando costs 44 points and has a pilot skill of 7, which I think is probably a little low since he did fly this ship into the superstructure of the second Death Star, which required some pretty elite skills, but I digress. Lando has a support ability that lets a friendly ship at range 1 take a free action when Lando executes a green maneuver. Free actions are always nice, although keeping your ships at range 1 of the bulky large ship isn't always easy. And of course we have Chewbacca, Han Solo's hetero life mate and co-pilot of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie costs 42 points and has a pilot skill of 5. Whenever Chewbacca is dealt a face-up damage card, he can flip it face down without applying its effect. No critical damage for Chewie. This is a really powerful ability, and it means that when Chewie is at the controls, it's probably going to take the full 13 damage to destroy his ship since direct hit cards won't apply. Now, there are ways around this ability in the game, specifically effects that flip an already dealt damage card face up. Chewbacca won't stop those, but they're fairly uncommon at this point in the game, so this is still a very powerful ability. Finally, the generic Outer Rim Smuggler costs 27 points and has a pilot skill of 1. And as I mentioned earlier, in order for him to cost so much less than the unique pilots, he has that different stat line and basic upgrade bar options from the unique pilots for this ship. Okay, now let's look at the upgrade cards that come with this expansion. There are a bunch of them, starting with a couple of missiles. The 4-point concussion missiles let you spend a target lock to attack an enemy at range 2 to 3 with 4 dice, and you get to change one blank result to a hit. Assault missiles cost 5 points and require a target lock to attack an enemy at range 2 to 3 with 4 dice. If the attack hits, every other ship at range 1 of the defender takes 1 damage. This is a nice weapon for firing into clusters of enemy ships. There are 3 elite skill upgrades included. The first is Elusiveness, which costs 2 points and lets you take a stress token to force an attacker to re-roll a die of your choice. You can't use this ability if there's already stress on your ship. This upgrade takes advantage of a little used rule in the game. Defenders get first crack at re-rolling attack dice, so the die you force an attacker to re-roll can't be re-rolled again via target lock or some other ability. Draw Their Fire costs 1 point and lets you take an uncancelled critical hit suffered by a friendly ship at range 1. This seems like a pretty good fit for Chewbacca, who will flip the card face down if it hits his hull. Veteran Instincts is a very cool 1-point elite skill that increases your pilot skill by 2. So as I mentioned earlier, 9 is the current highest printed pilot skill in the game, but it's now possible to boost pilots to a skill of 11. There's also an ability in the game that raises a pilot skill to 12. So we're seeing some flexibility beyond the previous hard cap of 9. Wave 2 added several new types of upgrade cards to the game. The first of these is the ability to add crew members to the ship. Luke Skywalker costs a remarkable 7 points and can only be used on a rebel ship, naturally. After you make an attack that doesn't hit, you can immediately attack again and change one focus result to a hit. After the second attack, no further attacks are allowed in the current round. One thing worth noting is that the game now has cards with the same name appearing in different places. Luke Skywalker is one of the X-Wing pilots in the core set of the game, as well as a crew upgrade card now. The little black dot next to his name shows that Luke is a unique character and cannot be included in the same squadron on more than one card. So no Luke Skywalker in both an X-Wing and the Millennium Falcon. Nien Nunb is another Rebel-only crew upgrade. You might recognize him as Lando's co-pilot in the Falcon during the Death Star battle in Return of the Jedi. When he's on board, all straight maneuvers are treated as green. He costs 1 point. Rounding out the crew upgrades is Chewbacca, which only makes sense. You've got to have the option to have Han and Chewie flying the Millennium Falcon. Chewbacca costs 4 points and lets you discard him to immediately discard a damage card you've just been dealt and regain 1 shield. That's a powerful ability that raises the Falcon's durability to an extrapolated 15 total hull and shields if Chewbacca gets used. Next, we've got another type of upgrade card that was new in Wave 2, Modifications. No ship in the game has the modification upgrade symbol. In fact, there's no symbol for these cards. But every ship in the game can choose to equip a maximum of 1. Yep, squad building got a whole lot more interesting in Wave 2, and there are many extremely useful modifications in the game currently. Engine upgrade costs 4 points and gives a ship the boost action. Boost lets a ship make either a 1-speed straight or 1-speed bank maneuver after executing its normal maneuver. Added maneuver options are huge in this game, and Boost lets ships reposition themselves to get into firing position or out of enemy lines of fire. You get 2 copies of this card. Next is Shield Upgrade, which costs 4 points and increases the shield value of your ship by 1. This card can give a shield token to a ship that normally has none, or add a shield to an already shielded craft. It's a great card. Finally, we've got one more new type of upgrade card, the Title. Like modifications, titles have no symbol, but they have to be used with specific ship types. As you'd expect, the title included here is Millennium Falcon, which can only be used on a YT-1300. It costs 1 point and gives you the evade action. This is both thematic and useful since the Millennium Falcon is capable of extreme evasive maneuvers, and it helps mitigate the low agility of the YT-1300. Okay, that's the Millennium Falcon expansion pack. Do I think it's worth picking up? Yes, of course. Is there any more iconic and instantly recognizable spaceship in popular culture than the Millennium Falcon? Trekkies are shouting the Enterprise at their computer screens right now, and I'll give them that. But that's about it. This ship is as much a part of Star Wars as Darth Vader and R2-D2. It's a character with its own personality, an extension of its rough and rugged pilots. But more importantly related to the X-Wing miniatures game, this ship brings a host of powerful options to the table for the Rebels, and is definitely worth adding to your collection. Personally, I don't want more than one of these ships, but it is possible to field 2 or 3 in a 100-point game. Thanks for watching the Cardboard Dungeons X-Wing ship reviews. See you next time.